Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video of the Necromunda project I'm taking you out of the Underhive and straight into the ash wastes. We're going to be building this board. You see? Now to do this it's very easy, it's very simple, no special materials. That's why I had to think for a while how I was going to build it, because we could use modeling compound and clays and everything, and it would look even better than what we end up with here. But I'm trying to keep things cheap, basic and easy. So what I used was pink isolation foam, drywall filler, sand, PVA and paint. That's it. And with that all combined, we are now going to build the ash wastes. Now do be mind, this board is a little bit smaller because the board that comes in the box is a 3x3, and this is basically the size of a kill team board. Only because I did not have any more materials, otherwise I would have made it bigger. But whether you make a board this big or you make a board the size of your house, the techniques are all the same. So use whatever you guys have, alright? So without further ado, because this intro has been going on for long enough, I'm gonna take you to the crafting table and let's do this! Come on!
Alright my fellow Necromundians, let's get this craft on the way, and I'm gonna begin with a leftover piece of XPS foam which is 34 inches by 24 inches. A little bit bigger than a kill team board, but unfortunately not big enough by the 3x3 board to use for Necromunda. But you can always add a piece to it to make it bigger. Now these stacks here, I'm gonna create hills, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just find it adds a little bit more dimension instead of a flat board. Now I will show you two simple ways to create rock surfaces and slopes, and the first one is this hot wire tool, which is very cheap and very easy to use. And just use it at a beveled angle to create the slopes, and wiggle it around like this to create the rock texture. Now don't worry if you do not have this tool. I'm gonna simply keep the leftovers by the way, but we can use a knife and cut it at a beveled angle to create the slopes as well. It doesn't have to be neat, guys. I mean, we're gonna cover this with drywall compound anyway, so just cut it at some slopes. Now for the rocks, I'm using some tree bark, and I'm gonna glue that on. But there's also another way if you don't have bark, and that is to use this butter knife. Just hold it against the side of your foam and start scraping away like a madman. And you will see this creates an awesome looking rock texture as well. And it's very easy if you don't have bark, just go with this and it will look amazing. But clean up afterwards, because this gets messy real fast, so don't forget to clean up, guys. Alright, so once we're happy with our hills, we're gonna dry fit them. Just play around with a few layouts till you get something that you like. Now once I find a composition that works for me, I'm simply gonna use white glue and toothpicks to attach this to my board. I'm dabbing my toothpicks into the white glue and sticking them into the isolation foam, like this. And I'm placing my board, my hill on top of that. Just make sure that the edges align, and I'm doing the same for the second hill and all the other hills as well. Like so. Cool. Now let it dry, and that rock and that hill ain't going anywhere, so knock off the excess pieces, and again, clean up, guys. This gets everywhere, these things. Don't forget to clean up. So I ended up with this for the base of my board, and I'm covering some areas with some paper tape and some paper to make it easier for the drywall compound. And I also made a ramp road using my foam board, like this. And I'm simply hot gluing that into position. And a second ramp also with foam board. And a paper towel roll will be cut up for a piece of piping, as this is a Necromunda build and I love pipes in Necromunda. I'm gonna hot glue that to the side of my board here. Now these bark chips, I've soaked them in hot water and Dettol and let them dry, and I'm gonna glue them onto the sides of my hills for rock texture. But if you do not have these bark chips, don't worry, just use the butter knife technique I just showed you. It works just as well. Now this is some leftover wood filler I had, so I'm gonna create a surface for my ground and sand. Just add the sand on top of the wood filler, but I also sprayed it with a little bit of water as well. And also it will help to smoothen it out, as you can see me do here. But I don't have enough wood filler, so I'm gonna mix in some drywall compound. When that is done, just sprinkle your sand on it, but use a sieve, don't use your hands. Just simply use a sieve, it works better, which I will do later on. Spray it with some water. Okay, a quick tip which I forgot to do: if you want some scatter pieces on your board, like metal panels or pipes sticking out of the ground, add them now before we cover the rest of the board with the modeling compound, with the drywall compound. So this is my drywall, and I'm gonna add in some water and mix up some compound. This is something we still had left over from when we did construction in our house. Now I'm mixing this up to a nice cottage cheese paste like this, and I'm gonna smear that all over my board. Just leave the rocks a little bit open, but just cover the entire piece. Do keep an eye out for the drying time, because depending on how thick you made it, it can dry out really quickly, especially if it's a hot day like today where I'm making this. It can dry out really quick. Just keep some water at hand to keep it moist so you can work with it. But smear it all over your board. I'm gonna put on some gloves and I'm gonna wet them. And then I'm gonna smoothen out all of the drywall compound. Well, rough smoothing out, I mean. Doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. I mean, we're not setting a wall here, we're creating a layer. So now with my wet fingers, I'm gonna create some vehicle tracks all over the board, as you see me do here. Some drag marks. Just gives the road some nice texture. Like so. Just drag your fingers anywhere you want the vehicles to drive. Also, don't forget to go up the ramps as well. Cool. Now I'm smoothing out a few more areas that I didn't do yet. Now I'm gonna spray the board with a mixture of 50-50 water and isopropanol alcohol, or if you do not have that, just use dish soap and water. And when that is done, just spray the entire board with a mixture of 50-50 water and PVA glue. But if you do not have a small board like I have, work in smaller areas before the glue dries out, okay? And then I'm gonna add sand in my sieve and I'm gonna cover the entire board, which was sprayed with PVA glue. Now I'm gonna remove the excess sand onto some newspapers when it had time to dry a bit, not completely though, and simply flip the board and the sand will fall off. Now I'm gonna take a stick and redraw some of the vehicle tracks and repeat the previous steps of spraying the alcohol and spraying the watered down PVA. Once I've dragged in these further vehicle tracks. Now again, spray it with alcohol or watered down dish soap and spray it with PVA. And it will look like this when it's fully hardened. And it is really rock hard, guys, trust me. But we're going to paint it now. We're going to make the sand look more realistic. And I'm going to do that by using a tan color paint, which makes the sand to begin look more realistic, and I'm gonna stipple it all over the board. Also be gentle when you are brushing it, because though the sand is locked in place very firmly, you can still scrape some of it off if you're not careful, so it's best to just stipple it on, guys. But cover the entire board, everything and everywhere except for the rocks. Skip the rock surfaces, but the rest, cover the entire board. And once that is done, then we're gonna cover the rocks and the pipe with a black acrylic paint, as you see here. And also, while we are doing that, cover the rim of the board as well. Now I'm gonna take a bone color spray or a sand color spray, and I'm spraying everywhere that is sand. Now if you don't have this spray paint, just use some regular paint and dry brush it on. It works just as well, guys. But leave the rocks black. Now we're gonna repeat the process with a gray primer, and I'm gonna dust spray it. Lightly dust it, the entire board, and also I'm covering the rocks with this as well. Now again, if you don't have a light gray primer, just use a a paint and dry brush it on. It works just as well. Now with a brown watered down wash, I'm gonna tint my rocks. Not wash them, but tint them. And the excess wash I'm gonna soak up with a little bit of paper towel. Just tinting the rocks. Like so. And then the excess, as you can see, as it has pooled here, I'm simply soaking that up with some paper towel. Cool. Now I'm gonna repeat this process all over the board in some areas with the same wash. Just smear that on and taking my paper towel and soaking up some of the excess to add some color variation to my board. And it's starting to look really realistic and really cool, guys. I'm happy with this. Alright, so for the pipe, I painted that with some brown and then stippled on some metallic. And I'm sprinkling on some pastels to make it really decaying and disgusting. Like this. And where I've sprayed with the pastels, I'm simply cleaning up the area around it with some tan paint. Now I'm going to sprinkle dark brown pastels all around the board, but do not overdo this either. Be gentle, less is more. Now once that is done, I'm going to cover the entire board, including the sides, with a clear varnish spray, and then we're done. Simple as that. And I'm also going to build a second board to add to this, because I really want my 3x3 Necromunda board. But as I said in the intro, you can do this on a small or a big board. The techniques are the same, so yeah, I am happy with this board. Looks very realistic, very cool. So let's place some models on this thing and let us have a look what it will look like. See, I'm happy with this. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video too. Looking very cool. Some of you might recognize these guys from my battle reports. They're now taking the fight into the ash wastes. So thank you all very much for watching, and there will be lots more to come. Also more ash waste terrain will be coming as well. So I hope you stick around for that. And I really appreciate all of you guys watching and liking. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps out this channel. And yeah, I will see you on the next one, guys. I appreciate all of you. Alright, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye now. Bye.